begin by, first of all, emphasizing that when we talk about these near-term or short-lived gases, when we talk about climate drivers beyond CO2, no one should misunderstand that as in any way taking away attention from carbon dioxide and the challenge of mitigation that has been so central to the climate change negotiation process. What I believe is to link the emerging science on these non-CO2 gases and on black carbon from the perspective that it allows us to buy back some of the time that we have already lost in our ability to still work on a credible global climate policy and partnership that allows the world to even have a chance to stay within the 2-degree scenario, or perhaps in a few years' time to even go beyond that, in order to respect what science, to the best of its ability, is able to tell us right now. And I think what is so enticing, and I just heard the remarks when I was sitting in the room of Professor Ramanathan, it is in a sense the phenomenon of multiple benefits of win-wins and the attraction of the short period of time that is needed between taking something out of the atmosphere or stopping the source of pollution and actually having an impact. Because contrary to CO2, we have in black carbon, and we also have in methane and tropospheric ozone, and also in the complex of HFCs, a possibility to have a far quicker turnaround in terms of impact on global warming drivers. Then we have a CO2, which is a much more complex process of essentially getting it out of the atmosphere again. You may, in the last few days, also have heard about the emissions gap report in which we identified this concept of the emissions gap, taking what had been agreed as voluntary pledges in Copenhagen, in the Copenhagen Accord, and translating these into the 2-degree gigaton target for 2020. And what has emerged quite clearly is that Copenhagen holds within it, in terms of the accord, 60% of the answer that we would have to come up with if we were to stay within a 2-degree scenario by 2020. The bad news is that 60% that is captured already in the Copenhagen Accord also means that 40% is still missing. And if we take into account that carbon dioxide and these other non-CO2 drivers of global warming are somewhere in the range of 50-50 of the overall equation, then it is in a sense surprising that it has taken us this long to focus more on the complementary actions that we can take right now to buy back some time. And I emphasize again complementary and to buy back some time, because anybody who uses the non-CO2 argument in order to detract from the challenge of reducing CO2 emissions simply imposes an even more steep and unpayable price on the next generation. And I think here in Cancun, we see the beginnings of an international partnership and also of a beginning policy response that appreciates that if we were to find within the broader climate process the kinds of partnerships and initiatives that could ultimately lead us to eliminate, reduce, phase out some of these substances, then not only would we be helping the climate change process, not only would we allow the world to have a greater chance to stay within a 2-degree or perhaps one day a 1.5-degree agreed scenario, but we would also be delivering a number of development benefits of immediate consequence. Black carbon is a major killer. It is not just a climate factor, it is a major killer of somewhere around 1.5 to 1.8 million people who every year die from indoor pollution. The work that Professor Ramanathan has done on the atmospheric brown cloud is in so many respects something that goes well beyond climate change. It deals with the future of food security in parts of the world. It deals also with climate drivers from the perspective of what happens in the glaciers in the future. And it has direct consequences to countries who will be the victims of sea level rise. Understanding these opportunities and also looking at how we can turn something that at the moment we either regarded as unimportant or that we have increasingly begun to understand as not only a problem but potentially an opportunity, such as methane. Turning something that is coming out of the waste dumps of the world, capturing it and turning it into energy, seems such an obvious and logical way to take the challenge of climate change to its next level, which is really turning problems into also opportunities. And in UNEP we have tried to capture some of that logic in the concept of the transition towards a green economy. Not some alternative nirvana, not some parallel ideology to sustainable development, but rather a very concrete set of challenges and opportunities that with sufficiently clear science and clear policy signals, including into the marketplace, and I say including, not exclusively, we have an opportunity to deal with these substances we are discussing here from being a climate problem, a health problem, a development problem, a threat to food security, into perhaps one of the opportunities that we have so far overlooked and that need to be added now to the array of instruments and initiatives if we have to have even the remote chance of being within a future scenario that the IPCC has given us in terms of where we should be by 2020 and then what actions follow from that. I return to my opening remarks. Some of the things that you're hearing about here today, I believe, will become central drivers of action in less than 5 years in international climate policy making, but also development and sustainable development. Thank you.